This is a great national crusade, a crusade to destroy enforced idleness, which is an enemy of the human spirit generated by this depression. Enforced idleness, embracing any considerable portion of our people in a nation of such wealth and natural opportunity, is a paradox that challenges our ingenuity. Unemployment is one of the bitter and galling problems that now afflicts mankind. Our problem is to put to work 3.5 million employable persons, men and women, who are now on the relief rolls. Our responsibility for the immediate necessities of the unemployed has been met by the Congress through the most comprehensive work plan in the history of the nation.
During the Great Depression in the 1930s, we tried out multiple large-scale direct employment programs where the federal government would directly employ people who are out of a job. And the two biggest programs we traditionally talk about are the Civilian Climate Corps, which employed youth across America, predominantly men, to build a great deal of our leisure infrastructure that we get to enjoy today. Things like national parks and national monuments and trail systems.
The original CCC, the Civilian Climate Corps, established by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, had an unprecedented impact on our environment and our economy as part of the New Deal. In total, back then, the original Civilian Climate Corps created 711 new state parks and improved every single existing national park, 94 in total. Their work gave national parks and monuments their best fire suppression record in a decade, and overall it was estimated that millions of dollars of annual losses caused by forest fires, tree diseases, soil erosion, etc. were prevented by the original CCC. And perhaps most importantly, the CCC played a part in rebuilding our economy. More than 1 million jobs were created, and many of these people went on to work good union jobs. The original CCC not only conserved our public lands, but it rebuilt our economy.
The second program that's often talked about is the WPA, the Works Progress Administration, which put people to work building a tremendous amount of our physical infrastructure today, from schools to roads and bridges to libraries to airports. And here the same thing, the government put people to work that were unemployed to engage in useful, paid work.
Each of these projects has been planned to meet a real need in the community which it serves, to take care of the unemployed as well as to confer real and lasting benefits on the people of the United States is the object of the WPA. Under this program, Work Pays America.
The WPA and the CCC approached the idea of a jobs guarantee, a policy for the federal government to promise a good living wage job to every unemployed person who wants one. The jobs guarantee looks to end unemployment, to offer the millions of people who want to work an opportunity to improve the country.
I went to a play earlier this summer in a theater built by the Works Progress Administration. Here, 90 years later, I still benefit from that program the government created. And so, I think it's time for us to revisit programs like that once again to reconsider how do we actually eradicate unemployment once and for all from the American condition.
The WPA and CCC recognized employment as an economic right and could have succeeded in eliminating unemployment altogether.
We adopted the policy that no unemployed man or woman can be permitted to starve for lack of aid, and that is still our policy. But the situation calls for a permanent cure and not just a temporary one. The permanent cure lies in finding suitable jobs in industry and agriculture for all willing workers. There is neither logic nor necessity for 1/3 of our population to have less of the needs of modern life than make for decent living. The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Continued failure to achieve that right, that privilege, by anyone who wants to work and needs work is a challenge to our civilization and to our security.
But America did fail to secure the right to work. By 1943, both programs had shuttered, and the concept of a jobs guarantee disappeared from the American consciousness.
Also this morning, an exclusive report from NBC News. The Biden administration is one step closer to launching its American Climate Corps program.
After experiencing some setbacks in Congress, the administration now says it has unlocked funding for the program, which was created to employ thousands of young Americans in the clean energy, conservation, and climate resilience sector.
President Biden is using his executive power to create a New Deal-style American Climate Corps.
Yeah, this plan is to serve as a major green jobs training program, could employ over 20,000 people.
Today, the Biden administration announced the launch of the Civilian Climate Corps, which it says aims to create more than 20,000 jobs in the growing fields of clean energy, conservation, and climate resilience.
Members of the American Climate Corps will receive training in in-demand skills to prepare them for the clean energy, conservation, and climate resilience economy, all while getting paid and helping communities across the nation tackle the climate crisis.
The president's American Climate Corps will put 20,000 Americans to work, get them trained, and get them paid, and turn green investments into a green workforce, marking a new era of youth-powered climate action all across our country. Tens of thousands of young Americans working together for energy efficient housing and buildings, for cities that must withstand climate catastrophes, for low-cost, clean solutions in communities that need them the most, for restoration of public lands that will protect endangered species and nature itself, for an effort that will transform our nation to survive a transforming world.
This program will create a number of great opportunities. Number one, it'll create new good-paying jobs. It'll provide training and transferable skills and support stable career pathways in the energy, conservation, and climate resiliency economy. It will provide family-sustaining jobs and family-sustaining wages.
When we hear about these crises hitting our communities, climate change, racism, public health pandemics, economic inequality, it is easy to choose a path of frustration, to feel like action isn't worth it. The creator of the original CCC, Franklin Roosevelt, once said that in these days of difficulty, we Americans everywhere must and shall choose the path of social justice, the path of faith, the path of hope, and the path of love. President Biden's American Climate Corps will improve on President Roosevelt's Civilian Conservation Corps.
The American Climate Corps is America's first foray into the jobs guarantee in the 21st century. Yet, if it filled every spot, it would still employ less than 0.5% of the nation's unemployed. It reflects an insufficient ambition to take on the true evils of unemployment. A full nationwide jobs guarantee attacks joblessness head-on.
Unemployment affects all of us. It doesn't matter what the color of our skin is, what our first language is, where we went to school. People lose their jobs. That is the fundamental nature of a market economy. When people lose their jobs, they lose their fundamental ability to pay their mortgage, to put food on the table, to pay their car payment, to get to go hunting for a new job and the like. And so a job guarantee is simply an insurance policy to ensure that people who are willing and able to work have a job.
It's in the core of humans to need to work, right? It's central to not only our identities, our egos, our sense of security, our connection to community. It's an essential human component. So giving everyone access to the ability to work, I think, is is healthy and good, and it creates a more vibrant community.
And indeed, what we see is that often people want to work hard, but access to employment is denied to them. So the notion of a job guarantee would actually fundamentally help ensure that that market failure, the failure between people wanting to work and lack of jobs, is actually corrected.
Only a program that is open to everyone can fulfill the goal of the jobs guarantee. Nonetheless, the American Climate Corps is a good first step, and it proves how the modern jobs guarantee should be focused on combating the climate crisis.
We're in a pretty serious situation. There's a lot of work to do to get to the place where our emissions are as low as scientists say they need to be in order to avert the worst impacts of climate change. And I think, I work in this field, and you hear a lot of scary statistics. We know how serious the challenge is. We see every day the impacts of climate change, from extreme weather events to here in DC, a lot more frequent and severe hot days. And we see the impacts that's having on people's health, on communities, especially those that are the most vulnerable. And so I think the state of where we're at is there's real serious urgency.
It doesn't require you to open up the IPCC report to know that we're in code red for humanity. Whether it's the sky turning orange or the smoke that so many have breathed into their lungs of wildfires burning hundreds of miles away, or the fury of floods and hurricanes that have washed away lives and livelihoods.
So there's a lot of infrastructure all around the country that is meant for a fossil fuel-based economy. And to transition away from that means that we have to scale up capacity around clean energy, and we have to transform capacity away from fossil fuel infrastructure.
Really the sky is the limit. So we could imagine a huge variety of green jobs being engaged in from job guarantee workers, whether that's weatherizing local municipal buildings, from schools to town halls to fire departments, whether that be focusing on increasing insulation, and particularly in low-income neighborhoods, to make their housing stock resilient, which has the dual benefit of reducing energy consumption and reducing consumer bills, which would help us address energy poverty, where low-income people simply can't afford to properly heat and cool their homes. We could see job guarantee workers installing solar panels. Right now, we're installing solar panels at a fairly impressive rate, but nowhere near fast enough to actually bring renewables online at the scale and speed that we need to transition our energy system in time to reach our climate targets.
It's about renewables and solar and wind, but it's also about equitable outdoor access. It's about resilient infrastructure. It's about taking on those pernicious issues that have persisted in our community for so long.
You could also see, green job workers doing a host of other things, like tree planting to help cool neighborhoods, provide additional shade, and also help improve air quality. So, I think that there's a tremendous amount of jobs to be done. Also, going back to the original Civilian Climate Corps, I think that we could see these workers engaging in helping build more high-quality outdoor recreation for the American people. During the COVID-19 crisis, we had a huge boom in outdoor recreation. And what we're seeing is that often our current outdoor recreation infrastructure is insufficient, that we don't have enough to meet the demand. And so that's another thing that workers could engage in. helping the American people get outside and enjoy the natural beauty of this country.
There's a lot of doom and despair to go around, but I think in moments like this, we, the optimists, get vindicated. We have reason to be hopeful because we have the solutions at hand, and more importantly, we have each other shoulder to shoulder, ready to do the hard work of building the future we deserve.
The transition to a green economy is just one benefit of the jobs guarantee. At its core, the policy is still about ending unemployment for all workers. It's about giving everyone a fair shot, no matter their background. If done right, the jobs guarantee can also be a step in remedying the effects of mass incarceration.
America has something like 4% of the world's population, yet we incarcerate 25% of the world's population. That's unbalanced and incorrect. But we are also kind of putting people into human storage. When you're released from Florida Department of Corrections, you're given a $50 gift certificate and a Greyhound bus ticket to your destination. And that's it.
You shouldn't have to pay for your debts over and over and over again, but we have people that are incarcerated that come out that they pay for the debts over and over and over again, even though after you do the time, that should be it.
We have systemically created barriers, collateral consequences like lack of access to employment, lack of access to housing, education, other opportunities that are essential to becoming connected to your community and to providing for yourself and your family. And lack of access to employment opportunities is like the leading predictor of recidivism.
It's a cycle, so you end up recidivating and going back in. If people can't afford the basic necessities, they're going to figure out a way to afford them. And if we aren't giving them opportunities and ways for them to afford them, people have to do what they have to do to survive. And so the majority of people going in are low income. They're coming out, they're going back into communities low income. So you're going to probably end up doing some of the stuff that could get you back in. You also have things like parole and probation violations. And so a parole violation or probation violation can be you couldn't find a job. And then you could go back in just because you can't find a job. You could be applying every single day. But a condition of your parole and your probation is to find a job, and you can't find one. They could be like, you didn't find one, or you're going back in. It's just like, it's not like you're not trying. And so it's the fact of when people don't have people don't have money to afford what they need to survive, they're going to do alternative ways, which aren't, which in our society is probably illegal ways. The number one indicator for recidivating and going back in is poverty. That's the reason people go back in, is because they're impoverished. So what way to make people not impoverished? They need money, they need jobs and opportunities. So I think it's a great idea.
When people have living wage employment, they don't need to resort to other means to make money, which may not be legal or legit. Also, having stable, secure employment connects people to their community. It gives them a sense of purpose, pride, and also it gives them a sense of security. We are now in our 25th year. So for the last 25 years, we've been providing support and training to people who've been impacted by the justice system with the goal of getting them reconnected to work and their families and our communities. So that they don't go back into incarceration. Our hope is to break that cycle of incarceration, and kind of a bigger connected the result is hopefully breaking that cycle of poverty, not only for the individual, but kind of generational poverty that is so closely tied to incarceration in our communities. So how do we do it? We do it through this support and training program we call Ready for Work. It's our core program. When people come to us, they enroll in a full year of support that includes very intensive 3 weeks of employability skill training, where they come to us in person every day. So this is almost like a runway. It's real intensive in the beginning, but it's a long-term goal of self-sufficiency. We get people, our goal is to match our clients with employment within 30 days of them completing the employability skills training. And our success rate is 87% of our clients are placed in employment. So we're breaking that cycle because we're pairing people with employment where they can then take care of themselves and take care of their families and not resort back to the things that maybe got them in trouble in the first place. While the national average for recidivism is around 60% after 3 years, the state of Florida reports one that's close to like 25%. Ours is only at 8%.
A jobs guarantee for the 21st century, to eradicate unemployment, to combat climate change, and to lower recidivism will not happen on its own. Only sustained public pressure to demand more from our elected officials can establish this right to employment.
I think young people have opened our imagination, our aperture, our desire to drive big structural change at this moment.
So let us be clear, the American Climate Corps is just a first step towards a fuller civilian climate corps.
I call upon my fellow citizens everywhere to cooperate with me in making this the most efficient and the cleanest example of public enterprise the world has ever seen. It is time to provide a smashing answer for those cynical men who say that a democracy cannot be honest, cannot be efficient. If you will help, this can be done. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be with the high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all, we approach this problem of reemployment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now. A successful bit of national teamwork from which will come again that feeling of national solidarity, which is the strength and the glory of the American people.